Hey guys, Jaryd Krause, host of the Buying Online Businesses podcast. And in this episode, we get to speak to Mike Jackness from Ecom Crew, and they have done amazing things in scaling sites from 5 to 6 figures up into 7 figures and also selling multiple sites as well. In this episode, Mike and I talk about dropshipping businesses and dropshipping businesses that he's owned and that I've owned, and the dynamic on how we can get more control over our dropshipping business. We also talk about the difference between selling on Amazon and then also selling directly from our site, and what that means for us in our business and what that can mean for our clients as well, and adding more value to them in purchasing our actual products. We also talk about how we can grow our e-commerce sites in the way of SEO and different things and strategies and tactics we can do on our site to get more traffic to our site. We also talk about email marketing to ensure that we can not just sell more products and make more money from email marketing, but how we can add more value and build relationships with our email marketing as well. So it's a jam-packed episode. Go away, enjoy, and I'll speak to you soon. Today's episode is brought to you by Investors Club. Investors Club is a paid members-only marketplace for serious buyers interested in proven businesses that aren't listed anywhere else, because sellers sign a 2-month exclusivity agreement to only list with the membership. Now, there's also no purchase fees or commission, meaning the seller nor the buyer ever pay commission in any deal. Each listing has next level metrics to make due diligence far less time consuming, making it quicker for you to seal the deal. With a membership, you have access to a no fee escrow service, and they have great Q&A support available for both buyers and sellers. I'm a member myself, and a lot of thought and effort has gone into this service. However, there are a limited amount of seats available for this membership, so go and check them out at their URL, which is investors.club. That's investors.club. Hey, Mike, and thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, it's great to be here. We were just talking. I was just in your mother country for a little bit, but not quite in your town. But it was a good trip.
Yeah, and thankfully we got all the rain that we needed. So all those bushfires, most of them are contained, which is quite good. And we're also talking about a fair few different things before we jumped in. And one of the things that was interesting to me was, you've started building a lot of e-com sites, right? And on your journey, you've bought 2 as well, and you've had some great success through doing so. And initially I didn't, think we'd jump on and talk about your journey into buying sites. But can you tell me how that eventuated and why you decided to buy these 2 different sites?
Yeah, it's funny how things work out in life and in business. There's a lot of connect the dots that happen, and so the first site that we're going to talk about that I bought happened because we actually sold another site, our first e-commerce site, which was treadmill.com. I had purchased that as a domain name. I'm a big domain investor as well, and I buy a lot of just single word or 2-word keyword type domain names. And one day I decided I wanted to be in e-commerce, and I picked treadmill.com as the first e-commerce project. And I literally knew nothing about e-commerce. Like, I didn't know what BigCommerce was or Shopify or any of the platforms. I mean, I was doing those types of searches on Google, trying to figure out how to even run an e-commerce store. It was kind of funny looking at my Google history at the time. I didn't have any contacts or relationships with any treadmill or fitness equipment manufacturers. But nonetheless, we figured it out, which is just kind of my MO. I don't ever let not knowing how to do something stop me. In fact, I'm kind of sick and twisted that that's kind of what I enjoy is figuring out things that I don't know how to do. And you're similar, right?
Yeah.
And so we got into selling treadmills, and what I realized was I didn't like. While I liked e-commerce, I didn't like that business, the treadmill, the fitness equipment business. So there was a lot of things to that. Number one, it was a dropship site. We obviously couldn't buy treadmills and ship them to our warehouse and then reship them. They were just too heavy. The logistics were impossible to ever even think about doing that. So the manufacturer would ship them directly, which was really difficult because we'd sell a treadmill and then we were told it was out of stock. Or it would get damaged in shipping, or it would show up late, and our customer satisfaction rate was horrible. And for me, that was a horrible way to make a living and to live my life, because I'm very much a people pleaser. Mm-hmm. And so we sold treadmill, And we sold it in January of 2015. We decided to go through the Christmas season of 2014 and then list it for sale. And it happened very quickly. And when I was running that site, I had one employee. And for anybody that's listening, that's an entrepreneur, you know that finding good employees is very difficult. It's probably one of the biggest challenges of being an entrepreneur. And this guy was awesome. He showed up to work every day on time. He never called in sick, and if he was sick, he dragged his butt to the office. And I got to the point where I knew I can go on vacation and leave, and he would just take care of things. And he had a family. One of his kids was challenged, and just had a lot of things going on. And both selfishly and just feeling bad as well, I didn't want to let the guy go. I wanted to find something else for him to do. So I had this thing going on where it's I have this guy, I need to figure out a way to put him in a job, and I also want to continue to do e-commerce. And so I got on bizbuysell.com and just started looking for things that were for sale. And that's how I found icewraps.com. And we can maybe talk a little bit about why that was appealing versus all the other things I was looking at. But that's how it happened. It wasn't necessarily that I had this brilliant idea or anything like that. Just it was being at the right place at the right time and looking on BizBuySell and looking for something else for this employee to do.
Yeah, that's great. And congrats on, removing that asset or that, that income stream or that work that you were doing with something that wasn't fitting and working for you. And it didn't feel right to you morally and ethically. And I'm huge on that, especially, teaching my clients that, if you're doing something and it's not actually lighting you up, and it's actually doing the opposite and dragging you down and not making you feel good about what you're actually doing, is you need to remove that and start working on something that you can. And I've been there with drop shipping as well. I've got had two drop shipping sites, and, one of which was a hard one. Just those pain points that you said that you had very much resonated with me, like bigger items, shipping, out of stock type things. And then, we're getting it in, let's hold these people on, back just for a little bit until we get more of the stock in. And it's tough. And a lot of people, I just want to say to a lot of people thinking about getting into drop shipping is it dead? Not particularly, because there are some smaller, products that you can use, but I mean, we can dive into that deeper. If you have more control over your product with your own e-commerce store, then you can satisfy your customers, and that more control allows you to have a better business as well, though it's still not completely out. So
there's no perfect business, because you go from the drop shipping to, we'll talk about once we got into inventory land. They have another suite of problems, but I'm still happier than I was with treadmill, because I'm not using hyperbole or exaggerating here. 80% of the sales that we had resulted in a customer literally yelling at us, either on the phone or in all caps through email, because these are high value purchases. They're spending $2,000 or $3,000, and people have, at least in the United States, gotten accustomed to 2-day shipping and everything just being perfect. And
those
these are
expectations
people
just way up.
Expectations were up here. Yeah. We could only deliver way below that. And, it just, and the thing that just crushed my soul was I felt that they were right. I completely agreed with them. It wasn't every now and then you're going to get a customer that's just irate and they're out of their mind, and there's nothing you can do to satisfy that. But when someone takes a half a day off of work and they take off from 8 a.m. to noon, they expect their treadmill to show up between 8 a.m. and noon, and they expect it to show up in one piece, and they expect it that when they pay for inside delivery, they don't have to help bring the thing in, and they expect the person to know how to build the thing when they get there. And that's not exactly asking for a lot. And the industry didn't allow for those things to happen. And we tried. For multiple years, like I said, I love figuring things out that I don't know. And I even tried to tackle this problem, but I realized over time that the United States is a very big place, and it's basically impossible with the finances that we have to try to solve these problems. It would have taken $1 billion and literally to set up infrastructure across the country to do that last mile delivery and set up and do it in a way that would have happened to meet the customer's expectations, and we weren't going to be able to fix those problems.
I remember reading about Zappos shoes is that they were doing a type of drop shipping type style thing, and they brought the logistics in house, and it was a massive project for logistically, and it cost them a lot of money. And to do that when you're buying a site, a 5-figure to even a 7-figure, 8-figure site, it's like basically impossible to do.
Yeah.
So you moved on to ice wraps. Firstly, what did you just for everybody listening, they're looking at buying either their first website business and doing due diligence, or, building a portfolio of them and buying these. What did you learn in that first exchange of buying your first business through the purchase phase and due diligence? Did you take away a lot of stuff from that?
Yeah, it's interesting because we didn't really do traditional due diligence with ice wraps.
Okay.
It was an asset purchase, which most of these things are, but in a different light of using asset purchases. I mean, normally when you say that, you're extracting all the value out of an LLC or something, but leaving behind the liability and that type of asset purchase. And the type of asset purchase we did was like, we're buying at fire sale a bucket of bolts as an asset, and that's what happened. So there really wasn't due diligence other than we logged into at the time they were using the Yahoo Stores platform, and we logged into their PayPal and credit card transactions and just verified that what they were saying even made remote sense. But the company was losing money, and so normally, like for instance, when we sold one of our other businesses this year, Color It was a 7-figure transaction. They hired a professional due diligence company to come in and do due diligence on us, and they turned over every rock and looked over every little thing, and they went over every purchase order we had made with our manufacturers, and they were looking at our tax returns, and they were looking at our Amazon account, eBay, Etsy, just everything that they possibly could look at, and recreating our financials on their own, basically to be able to verify everything was accurate. Those are the types of things that happen at that level. What I was doing was, this guy's like, look, I'm going to have to turn off the lights. This is what I have left in inventory. I have these employees that I can't afford to support any longer. I have a lease I need to break. This is the history of this site. And I agreed to buy it for $50,000. It was just like this round number that we kind of both picked, out of our rear end. And so the due diligence was much different in that situation. It was mostly just a faith-based exercise of, okay, I think icewraps.com, the domain name, is worth $10,000 or something. There's $25,000 or $30,000 in inventory here. If I was to go out and buy this stuff, and I was able to, count it all up and make sure that it was there physically. And the rest of it was just, I think there's some intrinsic value in this business. It was a 7-year-old business that had been around, for quite a while, and had some sales history, previous SEO rankings that they had fallen off. And my theory was I can turn this around and make a go of this. And there's not really a lot of risk on my part in terms of, if I got to go through due diligence to verify all of this stuff. At some point, your business sense just kicks in. You're like, F it, I'm going to run into the fire and do this. And that's kind of the method that we went with on that one.
I go with that a lot. Is when I buy something, or when I get into a project, I just roll up my sleeves and go, let's just get this done. And much like what you were saying before, is like, you figure it out as you go. I know for my first couple of sites, is like, I knew nothing about the niche. I knew nothing about, I knew a little bit about the business model, and then it's just working it out as you go. And I think to some degree that's all we ever do anyway. And that can get quite deep, and we can get quite philosophical in that, but that's what we're always doing as we go on our journey. So you bought icewraps.com. For most people, and this is an e-com site, right?
It's
an
e-commerce site.
Products. Yep. I mean,
it was physical products.
Physical
products, yes.
in your own area. So you had a warehouse, or there was an office, or how did that?
So we already had our own warehouse from running treadmill.com.
Yeah.
Even though we were doing drop shipping, we did get our own warehouse because we had to deal with returns sometimes, and if we send them back to the drop shipper, we basically got completely screwed. So we needed a place to take back some treadmills. We also needed a place as an address and a showroom to be able to sell some of these things. There was just with some of the treadmill manufacturers, there's some kind of like legacy things that go on in that industry, and they wanted to see an address and a showroom. So we bought some treadmills and put them in a showroom and took some pictures and got approved to sell for a couple other brands. And so when we had sold treadmill.com, we still had this lease that was had a couple more years on it, and we just inherently then had a couple thousand square feet to sell ice wraps from. And the business was based in Michigan, and so I flew up there and met the two employees that were going into to lose their jobs, unfortunately, and packed everything into a truck that was in their warehouse and sent them on its way back to California. I got back on a plane and flew back to California. And like 10 days later, everything showed up and we were in the ice wraps business. And that's kind of what happened. It was kind of crazy. So yeah, we just shipped everything back to California and started doing it. Yeah,
cool. Congrats on that. That's an accomplishment in itself. Now, everybody listening, they're looking at buying e-commerce sites and thinking about like, okay, I bought one and what do I do now? Like, what are the low-hanging fruits? What do I start working on? Kind of like what you and I were in that space of like, all right, let's just roll up our sleeves, get into it and work and learn as we go and work it out along the way. What are some of the low-hanging fruits that you had with ice wraps, in terms of growing the site?
Yeah, and I think every business is different, right? Whatever you're buying is going to have different low-hanging fruit. But for ice wraps specifically, my theory was that their platform was what was hurting them the most in terms of SEO. And I'm an SEO guy. I've been doing it since 2004. Shows my age. It's kind of brutal. But I thought that if we switch platforms to something that was, a little bit more modern and faster or just more reliable, et cetera, that would help. So we switched from Yahoo stores to BigCommerce. And the other thing that I was pretty convinced was, with Google's updates over the years, Penguin Panda and some other things that were kind of happened over the years, I could see that this site was trending downward in terms of the organic search results that they were getting. I mean, they were at one time in the heyday, it was prolific. I mean, it was crazy. You can look at tools like SEMrush or Ahrefs and see historically how the site had done. And a lot of these penalties and the reasons sites were going down were because people were doing black hat stuff, getting bad links and things of this nature. But I couldn't find any of that with this. And I talked to the guy who I bought the site from, and he was clearly not a technical guy. He was like, "What's a backlink?" He just didn't even know what that was. So I was pretty convinced that he wasn't going out and getting spammy links. And so the first 6 months consisted of replatforming and getting rid of all the thin content. So getting rid of all these stock descriptions that 100 other sites had for a Mueller shoulder wrap that CVS had on their website and Walgreens and these types of companies. And we took all of our own original photography, 10 or so different angles of every single product, which was a huge endeavor because there was a couple hundred SKUs on the site.
Wow.
And rewrote all of the descriptions on the site, titles, all the metadata, the descriptions, put together again, all original photography. And when we replatformed, like all that went live together. And within just a couple of months after that, the site was like 10 or 20x what it was from the day that we bought it. I mean, it was a really quick turnaround. And partially we got lucky with that, but I think also you create your own luck. So it wasn't like this was the only business I looked at. There were hundreds of them that I had looked at. And for me, this one appealed the most because I thought that if I applied the things that I had learned in my previous business dealings, that there was a good chance they would have a good result. And so that was the first like catapult that Ice Wraps had after we bought it.
You said you create your own luck here because I don't know if you've heard of a guy named Roger Hamilton. He writes a book called Your Life, Your Legacy. And in that book, he talks about luck and what it stands for. And L for location, U for understanding, C for connections, and K for knowledge. So if you're in the right place and you understand what's going on, you have the connections to help you get the work done, and you have the knowledge that you need to achieve the result, then you can be, in terms, lucky, right? You definitely create your own luck. And you understanding that, hey, we need to do a bunch of work on SEO, itself is big, but then when you go away and do all the work and you break down creating your own descriptions that aren't copies of, other types of products, and it's very unique, very organic and native to what you're doing in your own platform, the algorithms are going to see like, this is awesome. This is what we want. We want something fresh. We want some amazing images. We want to see that traffic coming in, and seeing that traffic actually staying around and reading the copy on your descriptions, reading the returns policy, and reading all that sort of stuff. And that helps your SEO just grow so quickly. And I mean, I wouldn't have thought you got a 20x return, but I would have thought you would have got a great return from doing so. But that's just outstanding. And that's a massive testament to people like yourself that, hey guys, like, just get in there, roll up your sleeves and just do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes you can't just go, oh, well, I'll try this and think about this and go half-assed at it. You did that's a big project, right?
It was a huge project. I mean, it was myself, my wife, and this one employee that I mentioned. And yeah, I mean, I was so sick of writing descriptions, and especially since when we first bought the stuff, like I literally didn't even know what I was going to write about, what the product even was, because I knew nothing about this ice wraps niche, this hot and cold therapy niche at all. So, I had to go through the school of hard knocks of just learning about the products. But, the end result was I became incredibly knowledgeable about the products, like intimately knowledgeable about these products. And the next catapult thing that we ended up doing was making our own products. And I was able to do that because when I was typing all these descriptions and doing research on reviews and the things that were happening, I knew pretty quickly within the first year, so much about the industry. And within the first year, it was just like, oh my God, like if I want to and change this and this about this product, and like also like did these couple other things that people are complaining about, I can make a better mousetrap, basically, that these guys don't even realize that the opportunity is there because they're not the ones actually selling it at the end user level. And so what we ended up doing over time was making all of our own products. And that's what really brought the huge amount of value to ice wraps and selling them on Amazon as well. So fast forward, a few years later now, this is a business that's doing, about $4 million a year in sales at 20% net, basically making a net profit per month what I paid for the business originally. And, it's basically making about $50K a month in net profit, paid $50K for the business, and that included the inventory and all the assets. So, it has been a great investment for us.
Yeah, I just want to come back to that, and congrats on that. That's huge. I just want to come back to, why you're getting that result is because you just went away and put in the work. Like I said before, you didn't just go half-assed. Like to go away and restructure the whole site and then go live, and then to also take on that project of like, hey, I've learned so much, let's just create our own products. Like if you gain more control over your business, it means you can provide more value, which means you can have a better business. And the more value you give, the more value you get back, right? The more you give, the more you get. And
I think the big thing that you said there, you got to put in the work, right? I mean, you can't just expect it to come to you. You're not buying a passive. I mean, you can buy passive e-commerce businesses. That does exist. But the types of things that I'm looking for are definitely not those types of businesses.
Well, that's the thing. I feel a lot of people might be upset about me saying this. A lot of my viewers are wanting to go away and buy something that's an investment that's pretty passive and they can just let sort of chug along, right? But they also want, I know deep down, because this was me when I first started, like I also wanted the passive income, but I wanted to just grow. But you can't get both. And I think you have to choose one or the other. And if you do just choose the passive, like I've done that with some sites, just kept it passive and it's gone, stable, not up, but stable. And I've earned that income, right? And I got my return back on my investment, stuff like that. But, I know that if I had to put more effort and work into it, then I would have been able to build it up a lot bigger and sell it for a lot more and make a far bigger return. And it's kind of like, which seat do you want to sit in? Personally, myself is like, I've started to buy into loving the journey and loving the process and learning so much that I would just want to keep going and scaling and growing. Whereas when you first get started, I think people are looking for an outlet to just put some cash into something and not work. But not working can get boring as well.
Yeah. I mean, we're kind of in that spot right now because we did sell one of our other businesses earlier this year that was taking up all of our time.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we have all this free time on our hands, which is kind of cool at first, but eventually if you're a true entrepreneur, it doesn't take long before you're getting bored.
Yeah, you're itching. You're like, what can I do? What can I do next? That's definitely me. So e-commerce, there's so many ways that you can take e-commerce businesses in terms of growth. I know that you know a lot about email marketing, Facebook ads, and you do some Facebook Messenger stuff as well. You know, if somebody, personally, I feel the best way to go for somebody who has just bought an e-commerce site without putting a whole bunch of money into ad spend is to go down the email marketing route and providing a really good, you know, opt-in or an offer. Would you suggest the same? And, you know, off the back of that, what sort of email marketing would you do? Would it be content-based? Would it be sales every now and then? Like what are the traditional approaches you guys have seen in not just your own businesses, but, you know, you teach a lot of people this sort of stuff too?
Yeah. I mean, this is a huge topic, so I'll try to boil it down to something that doesn't go in the ramble mode. I mean, I've done hour-long talks on this subject. We have a course that's like 12 hours long that gets into this subject. And I'm very passionate about email marketing. You happen to pick something here that's kind of my bread and butter. Colorit.com got 52% of its revenue from email marketing. You know, I see it as an incredibly powerful tool. And it's interesting because it takes some time to get over this hump mentally of, you know, for me at least, I personally despise email. I freaking hate it. Like I hate when someone sends me an email. I don't want to open up my inbox. I'm looking at my inbox right now. I have 57 unread messages sitting here that I got to get to today that I'm probably not going to get to. And it's just a miserable existence with email. But at the same time, it works. You know, it still works generating revenue. And as we sent more email, we made more money. And I realized a bunch of things, which number one is not everyone feels the same way that I do about email. You know, so that's important. You know, different people respond to it differently.
Yeah.
We were consistently getting, you know, 30% plus open rates on our emails. So people are reading our emails. We're triple the industry average. And the way that we did this was by the vast majority of our emails being things that provided value to the customer, to the reader, to the potential customer. They might have not even been customers yet.
Yeah.
But train them to look forward to opening our emails, to what we had to say. And so the typical e-commerce company will send an email once a month as an afterthought of everything that's about them. You know, here's our new products. Here's our sale. Here's how you can spend money with us. And you know, people don't want to read that crap. I mean, if they want to go to their mailbox and get a coupons and stuff, they can go out, you know, to the curb and get get a flyer and get coupons and get like spammy late night infomercial type stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so what we did and what we continue to do with our other brands is to try to provide value to them that makes them want to open our emails. So, you know, in the terms of Colorit, you know, here's stuff that the community has colored this month, and here's our favorite picks. Here's some tips and tricks on how to blend and shade with colored pencils. Here's a free drawing you can download from one of our books and print it at home and try it out. These types of things people would really look forward to getting because they were getting free tips and tricks on how to improve their craft, their hobby. You know, these are things that people are passionate about. They would see what other people were doing and then try themselves to produce equally great quality work so they could have a chance to be showcased themselves. They were looking for recognition themselves. And so that, you know, kind of gets them consuming our stuff and buying it even more. We did a weekly Facebook Live every week to continue to build community and do things like that. And so in the off opportunity, when we really did have something that we wanted to promote, like a new product or maybe Mother's Day sale or whatever it might be, those emails got open because I'm trained to just open up emails. Even if the subject would just be a check out on your product or we have a sale for Mother's Day, people would want to still see that because they were kind of trained to do that. And so our emails generated insane amounts of revenue.
Yeah, well, like what you've built such a relationship with somebody over time where they go, hey, I'm looking forward to your emails. Like imagine, you know, I know that my best mates don't send me emails. Like, it's pretty rare that I get an email from a friend. And, I mean, I do have a lot of work friends, but my friends that aren't in the online space, it's pretty rare that I get emails from them. But if they did, that'd be the first email I'd open, because I've got such a strong relationship with them. And it's the same with, when you've constantly adding value to people, they're spending time. The more time you spend with somebody, the stronger your relationship grows. And they're spending time reading those emails, and what they'd be obviously looking forward to opening those emails. I know this, in fact, because I used to send a bunch of stories about me, about my business, and I got some open rates, which is good. I started improving those to not just be about me, to be about other awesome things and how it was related to business and how people could get value from it. And then when I started podcasting, I started sending out my podcast update email that it was coming out. And I just had 30 to 40% open rates. And actually people would respond back to me saying, hey, like, I love this. I actually look forward to opening your emails. I actually look forward to when you post new content, because I'm adding more and more and more value. And I think that's a huge thing for people to understand, is like, you're not writing an email to grow your business, right? We need to get that out of our head. It's like, all right, this is about me growing my business. I need to write a good email. It's like, if you put your business second and your customer or your viewer first, you're going to add value, because you're in their head. What do they actually want? And you can create great content around that, all giving. Like I said earlier, the more we give, the more we're going to get back in time. And it may not be specifically from emails. It may be in a different venture or something else that we're doing in our life. So I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Yeah, I mean, it's about developing relationships, just like you would in any other aspect of your life. And yeah, I mean, it's worked incredibly well for us, and we continue to push email as much as we possibly can. But I think that it's one of those early low-hanging fruits that a lot of businesses can take a lot of advantage of. It depends on the niche you're in, though. I mean, ice wraps in Colorado are good examples, because those are polar opposites of email effectivency. That's not a word, effectiveness. And so, with something like Color, you can develop that journey and that relationship. With something like ice wraps, it's very difficult, because it's like a one-time purchase. It's something that's a pain point. Yeah. And people don't really need to buy it over time. And so I think you might take a different approach there, but we still use email quite effectively with ice wraps.
Yeah, for sure. Personally, I love cold therapy and stuff like that. So we might have to talk about that after the podcast.
Nice.
And then, so let's talk more about the design of a site. Like, you're talking about changing product descriptions, changing changing images and stuff like that. What are some other things that people could do with their content on their site to make it more SEO friendly? I have heard about, or seen really good results from people that I know that have changed product descriptions and put embedded YouTube videos about that product, or about that with a description or a review or whatever. And then I also, in the last episode, we were just talking about changing that navigation bar to making sure you're giving your customers what they're actually looking for as soon as they come to your site. Are there any other things that you'd expand on, developing the site and restructuring the site, that could be some quick wins as well?
Yeah. So I think, there's three things that are friction creators with people buying online. First is trust. Am I giving my credit card number to somebody that I have no idea who they are? The other is the return policy. It's like, am I going to buy this and not be able to send it back? And so that's a really important factor. And then the other is support. Just being able to get support in general. And so if you can address these things, I think that it makes a huge difference. If you look at ice wraps, this is like in the header. This is near the add to cart buttons. And so it's like, it shows right there, this is our return policy. There's a phone number to call to establish trust. It shows reviews and stuff. There's terms and conditions on there. There's a return policy. There's shipping policy. Free shipping is another like really big thing. And so we make those things clear, and so people don't have to hunt and peck for them. I mean, a lot of times people bury this stuff way deep down. They make their return policy clear as mud. These are things that we've worked hard on to establish and break through these barriers. I mean, for instance, with Color It, our return policy was no questions asked for 30 days, and we would make fun of this. It's like, I bought it, I don't like it, I colored the entire book, now I don't need it anymore. Zombies wipe their brains on it. I dropped it in a puddle of oil. Like, no questions asked means no questions asked. We'll take it back for any reason. And yeah, that sucks when someone takes advantage of you, because there's definitely that outlier case. But the reality was our conversion rate went up significantly when we changed that return policy and made it super easy. And the vast majority of people are good people and aren't going to take advantage of you. And don't let the one person that's the outlier take advantage of you. You can put your foot down and say, like, you can only do so many returns per year or something like that. And that's kind of how we address those people. But the vast majority of people are telling you a legitimate concern. Like, I bought this, I just don't like it. I'd rather have something else, or I want my money back, whatever. And we just never tell them no. And versus something like a treadmill, you can't do that, right? I mean, you can't take a $2,000 treadmill back for any reason. And so you got to play within the lane that you're, of the types of products that you're selling. Ice Drops has some challenges because it's a medical product. It touches the skin. So we have to make our policy there a little bit more restrictive, but we try to make it as clear as possible, so there isn't any ambiguity in what the return policy is, and as lenient as possible, because we don't want people to not buy because they're afraid that the return policy is going to be onerous. And your competition's Amazon, so especially in the United States, and they will take something back for any reason. It's really frustrating. Like, you could buy a set of gel pens and then put rocks from your front yard back in the box and send that back instead, and they'll take that back. And so that's, people know that's the bar that they can get at other places on the internet. And while it really sucks that Amazon set that bar for everyone else, because it does open a lane for people to take advantage or just flat out scam you, the honest people are going to be put off by a very restrictive return policy. So you got to get over that hump. And so that's something that we designed, integrated into our site as a part of when we took it over. We kind of redid that, and it made a big difference.
Yeah, hugely. Just gaining that trust. It's so important. People buying online these days are still worried about who they're buying from. And so you should be. There are some people out there that do actually suck. And that's why those people that are showing that trust, are winning and doing great things. It's not that hard to put a phone number on your site and have a returns policy that you can figure out over time and make it better and better, like you said, depending on your product and your service as well. I like that you mentioned the FBA. Sorry, not FBA, but Amazon. A lot of people can sell via Amazon with their sites, or there's FBA businesses that are just based off Amazon. So this is a couple of questions in one. Do you A, sell on Amazon, and B, do you weigh up, how much sales you get from Amazon as opposed to how many you're getting from your store? And do you try to prevent being too heavy on Amazon because you want to, in terms, own the race course and own your product and not be so reliant on Amazon in case something happens in that? Talk to me a little bit about your thoughts on that, because that, is a real thing. And something to be concerned about, or to understand how we can minimize our risk, as e-com site owners.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult because in the United States, Amazon, 55% of all e-commerce searches start on Amazon, and they get about 55% of the sales, e-commerce sales in the country. And so, it's really difficult to ignore Amazon. They're the 800-pound gorilla. And yes, we do sell on Amazon. It has become the vast majority of our sales. I don't particularly like that. In fact, I hate it. But sometimes just in business, you gotta kind of just go with the flow and deal with the card you're dealt. And we understand the risks that we're under, which is one of the reasons why we sold one of our businesses last year, because we realized that we're playing in someone else's turf, and it's very disconcerting. But again, there's just so much traffic going there, and especially for the more commoditized type products, especially things like ice wraps, people aren't willing to go to a third party site to find this stuff. They're looking for a shoulder ice pack because they just hurt their rotator cuff playing tennis or something, and they want to ice their shoulder, or they're looking for a knee ice pack because they're getting knee surgery next week and they need something when they get back to ice their knee. They're just going to go on Amazon and look for this and find something quickly. Yeah. And it's pretty difficult to ignore. I mean, we saw the same thing with Color It. We see the same thing with our other brands. And, unfortunately, we're pretty close to 85% Amazon now and 15% off Amazon. I would love to flip that the other way around if I could. But, since 2015, when we were 100% off Amazon, this has been a slow progression every year of Amazon just continues to become a bigger and bigger part of our business. No matter how hard we try. I mean, I put all my effort into trying to grow the off Amazon business, and it's still, the Amazon business grows quicker than everything else. And it's hard to prevent that.
Yeah, I guess the underlying thing we need to understand really here is what's our customers' intent, and how do they find our products, and why are they buying from certain platforms, or how do they find our products from certain platforms, and why do they find them from certain platforms? It's because that's where they're hanging out. That's where they're spending more time, right? It's like if somebody wants to buy something quick, it might be something under $150. They want to buy something. So they're always just going to revert to Amazon, right? Instead of go to Google and click on the shopping tab, which is what I do here in Australia because Amazon's not that big here. I just type it in Google and I click on the shopping tab. But I would imagine that most people just go, if it's something small, Amazon, of course, because that's where they're hanging out and that's where they look to buy things. It's the same when I'm marketing any of my businesses. My customers or my audience hanging out on Facebook, or are they hanging out on YouTube, or are they hanging out on LinkedIn, maybe, or Instagram? Now, maybe a lot of the people that want to work with me are on Instagram, but I don't actually particularly like that platform because it's maybe so volatile. But I have to lean into where the people are that I need, where I can solve their problem, because I'm in business and I want to make sure I add value to the people that need it and help them solve their problem. I need to go where they are. It's kind of like if you're selling an ice wrap and, you can see it as doing people a disservice. They're like, I'm about to get a knee reconstruction, or I've just had a knee reconstruction and need to get some ice, wrap. And they really find it hard to find it on the platform that they're looking for it, maybe Amazon. Why would you be silly not to go away and solve their problem by just doing them a service and going to where they want to buy it from and making it easy, right?
Yeah. I mean, Amazon has an insane number of people that are Prime members. This Amazon Prime, which doesn't really exist in Australia, or maybe it does, but it's not surely as prolific as it is in the United States. And so you have the app on your phone already. You have the app on your television to watch television, TV. You have it in your car to listen to music. And if you need something, your credit card's already on file. I type in, I need a shoulder ice pack, and 2 clicks and it's at my door in a day or two. And because they already have all that, it's frictionless shopping. And if you go search on Google Shopping, as you mentioned, for the same thing, the experience is got a lot more friction. You got a lot more clicks. You got to then type in your credit card and get over the trust hump and all that. And in a country like Australia, where there aren't other options available yet, or they're not quite there yet, you still go through these things because you don't know any other way. But when you've experienced the ease of shopping with Amazon, it's like taking a hit off a crack pipe, and it's very difficult to go back to what you were doing.
Yeah.
And even someone like myself who, I have like this devil and angel on my shoulder thing going on with Amazon, because, it's a way that we've made a lot of money. I do like shopping there, but I also don't really like them as a company. And, so I try to not use them as much anymore, but it's difficult. Like it's so damn easy. Especially with the lifestyle we have right now with traveling. I mean, it's just like, I need something today or tomorrow, and Prime makes it so easy to have that happen. And if I have a problem, I know I can send it right back. And it's difficult to go back to the way that we were doing things before. And Amazon has such a huge infrastructure and footprint now that it'll be very difficult for anyone to catch them.
Yeah,
it's possible, but improbable.
Yeah, that's right. Look, hey, we've talked about so much, and I just want to say thanks so much for jumping on. I really do appreciate it. Where can people go and find out more about you and what you guys are doing, and how they may be able to get some help from you if they've bought some e-commerce sites as well?
Yeah, I mean, so like you, we also have a podcast called Ecom Crew, ECOMCREW. You can send an email to support@ecomcrew.com if you want to email us. But we're Ecom Crew, ECOMCREW.com, Ecom Crew on iTunes for the podcast. It's on all the social handles. It's Ecom Crew. That's the easiest way to find me.
Cool. Guys, that'll be in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it, Mike. And for everybody that is listening, please do me and everybody else that wants help in this online space of buying a site and growing it a massive favor by going away and leaving a review on iTunes and rating it, just letting people and myself know what you actually liked about the show so other people can find it and jump in and learn more as well. But also so I can get the feedback, direct feedback from you guys to know what you want on the show, what you want me to be talking about, and more about some awesome guests that I can bring on like Mike as well. So please go away, leave a review, give us some feedback. That way I can help you better. Thanks again, Mike. Thanks for listening, everybody, and I'll see you on the next one.